"That's not my child," the millionaire shouted as he threw his wife and newborn out of the house. But 10 years later, when he saw them again, he was speechless. "Who did you trick me with?" Robert's words hit Sarah like a storm on the very day she was discharged from the hospital. He was always the businessman, his life a whirlwind of meetings, contracts, and deals. Over the years, Sarah had grown used to his absence, his cold efficiency. As a young student, she had seen him as a fortress, a place where her dreams of love and protection would finally come true. But that fateful day shattered her world like a house of cards in a storm. When Robert looked at their newborn son, he froze in shock. His face twisted with rage, and his usually commanding voice trembled with suspicion. "He looks nothing like me," he snapped, as if accusing Sarah of betrayal. "Who do you take me for? Who are you trying to fool?" Still weak from childbirth, Sarah looked at her husband in pain and disbelief. His words cut through her like shards of glass. She had been faithful to him from the very beginning, their very first meeting. Her soul belonged only to him. There were no other men in her life. For the sake of giving him a son, she had been willing to sacrifice everything, her studies, her career, her ambitions. But now, her love, her sacrifices, all of it had been trampled under the weight of his baseless anger. Sarah's mother, Helen, had never approved of her daughter's choice. Her voice, full of worry and disapproval, echoed in Sarah's ears. "Why do you need a divorced man, with a child from his first marriage, no less?" she had pleaded. "Find someone your own age. Someone you can build a life with." "I don't understand you, Sarah." But Sarah's heart was deaf to warnings. She believed Robert was her destiny, her savior, her knight. Yet that day, when he cast her out and accused her of cheating, her faith in love was shattered completely. Helen, heartbroken, watched her daughter standing at the edge of the abyss, clutching a newborn in her arms. But before we continue, leave a comment and let us know what city you're watching from. Enjoy the story. The only thing left for the young woman was to accept her reality. Sarah stood firm. She truly believed Robert was her destiny, and only by his side could she ever be truly happy. Helen spoke with her son-in-law only because she had to, never hiding her resentment. And it wasn't hard to see why. He was old enough to be her husband, yet he had whisked away her daughter to the city hall. What mother would be happy about that? But Sarah was in love, and shortly after the wedding, she moved into his big house. The first few years, everything seemed perfect. Sarah continued her medical studies, something Helen had always dreamed of for her daughter. She herself had given up her own ambitions when she became a mother too young. Her partner had left the moment he found out she was pregnant. Sarah never met her father. She had always longed for a father figure. Deep down, Helen understood why her daughter chose a man like Robert. He filled the void left by the father she never had, the protection and love she had missed as a child. With Robert, Sarah felt safe and secure. Like any devoted wife, she dreamed of giving him a son. 2 years into their marriage, fate gave her that chance. She was overjoyed when she found out she was pregnant. But Helen's face darkened like a gathering storm. "What about school, Sarah?" she asked anxiously. "You're not planning to drop out, are you? Don't even think about it. This isn't just any college. You worked so hard to get in." There was truth in her concern. Sarah had put in years of effort to prepare for the exams. It hadn't come easy. Still, she had no plans to quit entirely. "I can finish after maternity leave," she replied calmly. At that moment, nothing mattered more to her than the child. That baby was her everything. No matter how much her mother tried to persuade her to wait, Sarah wouldn't listen. "By the time I finish school, how old will I be?" she argued. "And I don't want just one child, I want at least 2, maybe 3. When do you expect me to have them all?" Sarah's desire for a big family frightened Helen, who firmly believed that a woman should only have as many children as she could raise on her own. That's what she had always taught her daughter. But all those lessons had fallen on deaf ears. It pained Helen to see what was happening in her daughter's life. And when Robert slammed the door on her, it hurt even more. "How could he do this to you?" Helen asked furiously. She knew Sarah would never cheat. "I warned you about him. I told you who he really is. But you wouldn't listen, you had to do it your way. And now you're paying the price." At that moment, Sarah didn't care about her mother's warnings or lectures. She was still in shock over the scene her husband had caused. She never imagined he was capable of something so cruel. She would never forget the words he said the day she was discharged from the hospital. Sarah had hoped he'd be overjoyed to see their son, that he'd lift both her and the baby in his arms. But instead, she heard nothing but accusations and insults that shattered her heart. "Get out of here, cheater!" Robert yelled. "How could you sneak around behind my back? I gave you everything, absolutely everything. Do you think you'd live in this kind of luxury with someone your own age? You'd be scraping by, waiting to finish college, then working some hospital job for pennies. You're not good for anything else. And now you've brought someone else's child into my house. You think I'll tolerate this?" Sarah desperately tried to explain that newborns didn't always resemble their parents. "You have a daughter yourself," she cried. "You saw her the day she came home from the hospital. Did she look exactly like you? That's absurd. Babies grow and develop their parents' features over time. You're not a child, you should know this." "My daughter looked like me from the day she was born," Robert snapped. "I know the difference between my child and a stranger's. Your son and my daughter, night and day. Don't try to fool me. I know what I'm talking about. Pack your things and get out of my house. And don't even think about child support, I'm not giving you a single cent." "Please, Robert," Sarah begged. "I love you. I've never been unfaithful. I can't imagine my life without you. You're everything to me. We have a son together. If you don't believe me, do a paternity test, it won't cost you anything. Why are you being so stubborn? You're accusing me of something I didn't do. Please, hear me out. Don't do this." "A test?" he scoffed. "You think I'd humiliate myself like that? What do you take me for?" Robert didn't even try to listen. He had convinced himself she'd betrayed him, and no one could change his mind. With nowhere else to go, the heartbroken woman had no choice but to gather her things and move in with her mother, Helen. Sarah left his house the very same day. She didn't want to spend another second under his roof. "Mom, I was such a fool," she sobbed. "Please forgive me." "Enough crying," Helen said firmly. "You had a baby, so now we raise him. But your education matters just as much right now. That baby's going to need a lot, and nothing's going to fall from the sky. You have to finish school. I'll help with the baby." That's what mothers are for, to pull their daughters out of trouble when they don't know any better. Sarah was endlessly grateful to Helen. Without her, she would have drowned in misery. If her mother hadn't taken over caring for the baby, Sarah would have never made it to graduation. Helen juggled work and caring for her grandson without rest, while Robert, the man Sarah had once worshipped, blinded by love, kept his cruel promise. After the divorce, he abandoned her and their son without a penny, leaving them to survive in a cold, unforgiving world. The divorce crushed Sarah. Her heart broke into pieces. How could someone she loved so deeply, someone she had been ready to devote her entire life to, just throw her away like trash? And all because of a foolish, poisonous pride, because of a groundless jealousy that had rotted his soul. Robert had always been consumed by jealousy. It had destroyed his first marriage too. But he was cunning. When he met Sarah, he kept his past hidden, distracting her with promises and talk of wealth. Naively, she believed him, never suspecting how toxic he truly was. If she had known about his obsessive suspicions, she would have thought twice, no, 1,000 times, before slipping that ring on her finger. But love had blinded her. In the beginning, Robert had been everything she dreamed of, attentive, generous, showering her with gifts like a fairy tale prince. But life has a way of revealing the truth. And thank God, the mask came off. What could be worse than living with someone whose true nature is a complete mystery? After her son was born, Sarah's world completely changed. In those early years, she never left his side, devoting herself entirely to him. When he was old enough to start preschool, she gritted her teeth and returned to her studies. She fought with everything she had to become one of the best students at the university. A diploma wouldn't guarantee a new life, but it was a step toward hope, a chance to find a decent job that could pull her and her son out of poverty. "Remember, your education doesn't end with that diploma," her mother reminded her. "You need to become not just a doctor, but a great one, one of the best. Otherwise, what's the point of all this?" And Sarah never forgot. How could she? Her future, and her child's, depended on it. She hadn't realized how expensive a child really was. While she'd been living with Robert, certain that he handled all the family finances, it never even crossed her mind. Money had never mattered much to Sarah. But that changed the day she became a mother. She never expected to live counting every cent. Yes, Helen helped, both with the baby and financially, but that couldn't go on forever. Her mother didn't earn much, and she wasn't getting any younger. At one point, the family had to dip into their savings, something Helen had sworn she would never do, under any circumstances, because that money was meant for her retirement. But what wouldn't a grandmother do for her child? For her beloved and only grandson, Helen was willing to do anything. As soon as Sarah landed her first job, she stopped taking money from her mother. Occasionally, Helen would buy something for her grandson, but Sarah lived modestly, denying herself everything so she could spend every penny on her son and their household. Years went by, and Sarah's life slowly began to change. The head doctor at the hospital where Sarah started working after graduating, Dr. Olivia Parker, saw potential in her from day one. She supported Sarah's growth and career every step of the way. She understood how hard things were, she had once been in Sarah's shoes. "Having your child early was the right thing," Dr. Parker used to say. "You've got plenty of time to build a career. You're still young." Sarah was deeply grateful for her support. It meant the world to her. As a single mom with a child to raise, she didn't want to spend her life barely making ends meet. She didn't work for the money alone, but she had to provide for her son, and his needs were only growing. "It's time to start getting him ready for school," Helen said when Michael turned 6. "You'll have to enroll him next year, and he's not ready. It'll be tough on him." That and many other issues needed to be addressed urgently. That year, Sarah spent what little she had saved on tutors for Michael. It wasn't until the following year, when she had enough experience to qualify for a promotion, that their financial situation finally began to improve. "You understand why I couldn't do it earlier," Dr. Parker told her, almost apologetically. "You're so young, and I know you've got a lot of potential. But experience matters in our field." "Of course, I understand," Sarah replied. "You don't owe me any explanations. I already owe you so much. I'm incredibly grateful for your help and support, it means everything to me, to Michael, to our whole family. You've done so much for us." "All right, that's enough," Dr. Parker smiled. "You earned this promotion. Now just don't let me down, live up to the trust I've placed in you." "I will," Sarah promised. "You know I give my all. I'll work as hard as I can, I won't let you down." Reviews of the young surgeon's work were so overwhelmingly positive that Dr. Parker sometimes wondered if people were exaggerating. But they weren't. There wasn't a hint of flattery in the praise. Sarah truly was a doctor with a gift, someone who took her duties seriously. Even when he showed up at her door, she didn't flinch. She greeted him politely and invited him in to sit and talk. His visit came as a complete surprise. And when Robert saw the name of the doctor who'd been recommended to him as one of the best surgeons, he didn't believe it at first. Must be a coincidence, he thought. Plenty of people have the same last name. But the moment he stepped into the office, he knew it wasn't a coincidence. He recognized her instantly. She hadn't changed much over the years. "Hello, Sarah," he said quietly, walking toward her desk. It was an awkward meeting under grim circumstances. His daughter had been ill for over a year. Neither Robert nor his ex-wife could understand what was happening to Emma, or how to help her. They had visited several clinics and doctors, but no one had answers. Every specialist told them the same thing: it was hopeless. Surgery was too risky because of her other health conditions. "I'm really sorry your daughter is in this situation," Sarah said after listening to him. "But you have to understand, words alone won't solve anything. Emma needs to be examined as soon as possible. Why isn't she here today? Why did you come alone?" "She's not feeling well," Robert said. "She can barely get out of bed. I was told you're one of the best surgeons. Maybe they weren't lying. Please, help me. I'll pay whatever it takes." After all these years, he hadn't changed at all. He still believed everything could be solved with money. Even when talking about his daughter's treatment, Robert framed it all in terms of money. "You know I'm not a poor man," he continued. "I'll really pay. I'll do whatever it takes, as long as my little girl lives. I just want her to be healthy and happy again." He didn't say a single word about their son. It was as if Michael didn't exist. But Sarah didn't let herself dwell on the past. She was a doctor, and it was her duty to help anyone who came to her. And in this case, she would do everything she could to help this girl recover and find joy in life again. But Sarah needed Robert to understand that not everything was in her hands. She didn't want to face accusations later, so she laid everything out clearly in advance. "I understand," he sighed. "Every doctor has told us the same thing. I get it. But maybe, just maybe, you can help her. My ex-wife's already lost hope. I'm at my limit. I don't even know how I'd keep going if something happened to her." Robert's words cut deep. But Sarah held herself together and waited for Emma to arrive, as she would with any other patient. The results were ready in a week, and Sarah informed Robert that she was prepared to go through with the surgery. "Are you sure?" he asked. "What if something goes wrong? What if Emma can't handle it?" "I believe we have to try," Sarah replied firmly, making it clear she wouldn't accept hesitation. "What's the alternative? Just leave things as they are. That won't help. You need to understand that." The man agreed. On the day of the operation, he came to the hospital with his daughter and didn't leave until it was over. "Can I see her?" he asked when Sarah finally came out of the OR. "I just want to talk to her." "Robert, you're acting like a child," Sarah replied, annoyed. "See her. Talk to her. She's going to be under anesthesia for hours. The surgery was successful. She's being moved to recovery. You can visit her tomorrow. Go home and get some sleep, you look terrible." And she wasn't wrong. He hadn't slept all night. His mind was racing, one anxious thought after another. But strangely, in that moment, he decided to listen to Sarah, even though it went against every instinct he had. Just a year ago, before his daughter got sick, he would have thrown a fit over having to sit in a hospital corridor for hours without even seeing Emma. But now, he understood that such behavior would only make things worse. His daughter's fate was in the hands of the doctors, and of God. For the first time in his long life, he truly believed in something higher and prayed for help. There was nothing else left to hold on to. Only divine support could help Emma survive. When he got home, he collapsed into bed and immediately fell asleep, not even realizing how fast it happened. He was so drained it felt like he'd slept for days. In reality, it was only a few hours. When he woke up, he got ready and headed straight back to the hospital. "Can I see my daughter?" he asked the doctor on night duty. It was late, well into the night. But in his emotional whirlwind, Robert hadn't even noticed. He didn't check the time, didn't notice the darkness outside. All that mattered was Emma. By then, she had already opened her eyes, and she was shocked to see her father walk into the room without knocking. "Dad? What are you doing here?" Emma asked. "It's the middle of the night. Why did you come? And how did they even let you in?" "I'm sorry," Robert mumbled. "Did I scare you? I just couldn't sit at home any longer, not knowing how you were. I needed to see you. To make sure you were okay." He had always supported his daughter financially. But their emotional connection had only formed after she got sick. Before that, Emma blamed him for the divorce and never took him seriously. Robert, for his part, only realized the value of family when he found himself truly alone. Suddenly, it hit him, he was miserably, painfully alone. All he wanted now was love, support, a real family. The kind he had destroyed twice with his own hands. When morning came, he said goodbye to Emma after talking with her for hours and headed for the exit. A few steps down the hallway, he ran into Sarah. She looked genuinely surprised to see him. "What now? What are you doing here?" she asked. "I didn't authorize any visits." "Who let you in?" "Don't be mad," Robert whispered. "I spoke with the night doctor. Please don't scold him." "Sarah, I just had to see my daughter, to make sure she was okay." Still trying to solve everything with money, she sighed, then waved it off. "Fine. You came, you saw she's okay, be satisfied." Sarah walked down the corridor and entered Emma's room, staying there for about 30 minutes. Robert waited. He wanted to thank her for the successful surgery, and to apologize for the past. He felt deeply guilty for how unjustly he had treated her all those years ago. He needed to make it right. He didn't want to wait another moment. What he didn't expect was the twist fate had prepared for him in Sarah's office. When she saw him waiting outside her door, Sarah let out a long sigh. "You again." By that time, he had already received the flowers he'd ordered, and tucked inside his jacket was a thick envelope of cash, his go-to gesture for expressing gratitude. "What do you want?" "To talk," he said. "There's something really important I need to say." "All right," Sarah agreed. "But make it quick. I don't have much time." She swiftly unlocked her office door and motioned for him to enter. The conversation stumbled from the start. Robert didn't know how to begin. Every word he had prepared vanished the moment he stepped inside. Holding the bouquet tightly, he searched for the right way to express his regret, but the words slipped through his fingers like sand. Their conversation had barely begun when the door creaked open, and a boy burst into the office, his sneakers clapping loudly against the linoleum floor. His hair was tousled, and his cheeks glowed with impatience. "Mom! I've been waiting forever!" Michael exclaimed, puffing out his cheeks and crossing his arms like a little rebel. His voice, sharp and full of childish frustration, cut through the heavy silence. "I called you 3 times, and you didn't answer. We were supposed to go to the movies." Sarah froze, her heart tightening. It was one of those rare days, no surgeries, no appointments, and she had promised to spend it entirely with her son. Her work, her fight for their future, had consumed so much of her time that guilt had become a constant companion. Today was supposed to be his. Just a simple, happy day filled with laughter and the smell of popcorn. But now, staring at him, she felt her plans crumbling under the weight of the moment. Robert, still standing by the desk, suddenly went rigid, as if time itself had stopped. His eyes locked onto the boy, those clear eyes, those familiar features. It was like looking in a mirror, one that reflected a younger version of himself. His heart clenched as the truth hit him. Standing before him was the son he had rejected all those years ago, blinded by jealousy and pride. He couldn't speak. His throat tightened as a storm of emotions swelled in his chest: regret, shame, love. "My son," he finally whispered, his voice trembling like a leaf in the wind. That word, barely audible, was soaked in pain and hope, feelings he had buried for years. Michael frowned and turned to his mother, his curiosity mixed with cautious distrust. "Mom, who is that man?" he asked, pointing at Robert. Sarah felt her heart shatter. Memories came rushing in: Robert's accusations, his cold words, the night she'd left his house with a newborn in her arms, vowing never to return. "Tell him, Robert," she thought bitterly. "Tell your son how you accused me of cheating, how you threw us out into the street to survive on our own. Go ahead, don't hold back." But she said nothing. Her lips trembled, but the words didn't come. Despite everything he had done to her, a part of her still loved him. That love, like an old wound, still ached. Robert was the only man who had ever truly held her heart, and even after all these years, that hadn't changed. She took a deep breath, blinked away the tears, and smiled gently at her son. "He's just an old acquaintance, Michael," she said softly. Then she turned to Robert, her voice firmer. "Please leave. My son and I have somewhere to be." Robert nodded. His face twisted in pain, but he said nothing and walked away, leaving behind only the faint scent of flowers he never got the courage to give her. Sarah took Michael's hand and squeezed it tightly, as if afraid he too might disappear, just like the dreams she once had. The next day, Robert came back. He stood by the hospital entrance, nervously fidgeting with his jacket, his eyes scanning the crowd for Sarah. When she finally appeared, he stepped forward, his voice full of desperation. "Sarah, I need to see him again. Please, give me a chance. I want to be a father to Michael, just give me a chance to try." Sarah stopped, her heart torn between the past and the present. She knew she shouldn't give in, but love, like an ember buried deep, still glowed inside her. And despite all her mind was screaming, she gave a faint nod. "Sarah, I'm so sorry," he said. "I was blind, foolish, I destroyed everything. I didn't believe you, and I was wrong. Please, give me a chance to make it right." Sarah stayed silent. Her eyes, full of pain, met his, but the warmth they once held was gone. When Robert left, she quietly closed her office door and finally let the tears fall. They streamed down her cheeks, washing away years of suppressed heartache. "It was so hard, Robert," she whispered into the empty room, hugging herself as if trying to hold together the pieces of her broken heart. "I loved you, and you threw us away like garbage. I spent sleepless nights counting coins to feed Michael. I fought every day while you lived your life without even thinking of us." That same night, she told Helen everything. Her mother listened with tight lips, and then, with her usual firmness, said, "Don't you dare let him back into your life, Sarah. That man only ever brought you pain. He doesn't deserve you or Michael. Forget him like a bad dream." But Sarah's heart, even wounded, still beat to the rhythm of an old love. The next day, when Robert asked to meet again, she agreed. They met in the park, where autumn leaves were falling like her long-lost hopes. Robert looked lost, but in his eyes burned a genuine plea. "Let me see Michael," Robert said quietly. "I want to be a part of his life. I know I don't deserve it, but I want to try." Sarah hesitated, but deep down she knew she couldn't say no. She still loved Robert, even after everything he had done. A few days later, she arranged a meeting. Michael, unaware of the full story, looked at his father with a mix of curiosity and caution. Robert, offering an awkward smile, held out a box with a brand new computer. "This is for you, son," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I hope you like it." Michael's face lit up with excitement as he grabbed the gift, while Sarah watched the scene unfold, her heart tightening. She knew this moment was fragile, just the beginning. Forgiveness doesn't come instantly, but she held on to hope that time and love might heal the wounds. Or maybe she was just fooling herself again, the way she had when she was young. When Sarah and Michael returned home, the evening light from a small desk lamp filled their modest apartment. Still clutching the box, Michael tossed it onto the couch, then frowned and went straight to his room. Sarah watched him go, a knot forming in her chest. She knew she couldn't stay silent any longer. The meeting with Robert had stirred the past, and the truth she had hidden for so long demanded to be told. She knocked gently on his door. "Michael, can I come in?" she asked softly. Her voice trembled with emotion. Michael nodded without looking up from the window. Sarah sat beside him. "Michael, I need to tell you about Robert," she began, trying to keep her voice calm, though it carried the weight of old pain. She told him everything, how she had loved Robert, how she dreamed of building a family with him, how he had accused her of cheating and thrown them out when Michael was just a baby. Each word cut through her like a blade, but she kept going, because Michael deserved to know the truth. "He's your father, Michael. I didn't want you to grow up with this burden, but now you need to understand why things happened the way they did." Michael sat in silence, his fists clenched tighter and tighter. When she finished, he jumped up, his eyes blazing with fury. "He left us. He thought I wasn't his son, and he threw us away like garbage. And now he shows up with some computer and thinks that fixes everything," he shouted, his voice cracking. "I don't want to see him. Ever. And that gift." Michael grabbed the box and flung it toward the door. "He can take it back. I don't want anything from him." Sarah tried to hug him, but he pulled away and ran out of the room, slamming the door behind him. She remained seated, burying her face in her hands as tears rolled down her cheeks. Helen, hearing the shouting, walked into the living room. After learning what had happened, her face hardened like stone. "I told you, Sarah. Don't let him back into your life. That man is poison. He destroyed your life, and now he wants to ruin Michael's too. Don't let him anywhere near you." But Sarah's heart still held on to hope. She still loved Robert, and despite everything, she believed he could change. She decided she'd prove it, to Michael, to her mother, and to herself, no matter how long it took. Her love was stronger than the pain, and she couldn't just close the door on the past. Robert wasn't giving up either. He knew he'd been given a chance he didn't deserve, and he was determined not to waste it. A few days later, he asked to meet again, this time for dinner at their home, hoping to speak with both Michael and Helen. Sarah, hesitant, agreed, warning him it wouldn't be easy. The evening was tense. Michael sat with his arms crossed, avoiding eye contact. Helen's cold gaze barely masked her contempt. Robert, feeling their distance, began to speak. His voice trembled, but he didn't stop. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I was blind, foolish, selfish. I destroyed our family, Sarah. And I took away the father Michael should have had. My jealousy, my pride, they blinded me. I was later diagnosed, and I spent years in therapy. I'm not expecting you to forgive me right away. But I want to prove that I've changed. I want to be part of your lives, if you'll let me. Please forgive me." He spoke for a long time. His words were sincere, full of pain and remorse. He spoke about his years of loneliness, how he realized his mistake when he saw Michael, how saving his daughter from illness had made him rethink everything. Michael stayed silent, his eyes fixed on the table, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in his gaze. Helen simply shook her head, her heart remained closed. Sarah looked at Robert, feeling torn. She wanted to believe him. She wanted Michael to have the father he'd never had. But the path to forgiveness was long, and she knew they would all have to face many trials to truly heal. Robert left, placing the same computer Michael had rejected on the table.